All right, y'all, Exodus 32, killing prophetic idolatry. I want to begin in verse 1. I'm going to sort of take a portion of this and dissect it, and then I'm going to come back to Exodus 32 in a few moments. Verse number 1, and when the people saw Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, make up us gods, which shall go before us, for as this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, break off golden earrings, which are in your ears of your wives and your sons and your daughters, and bring them unto me. The people broke off earrings which were in the ears, brought them to Aaron. He fashioned them at their hand, and fashioned them with a graving tool. And after he had made it a molten calf, they said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. And they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat to eat, to drink, to raise up, and to play. And the Lord said to Moses, go get thee down, for thy people, which thou broughtest up out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. Verse 8, they have quickly turned aside out of the way which I commanded them, and made a molten calf, and worshipped it, and sacrificed thereunto, and said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And the Lord said to Moses, I've seen this people. Behold, it's a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, that I may consume them, and I will make of thee a great nation. Now I want to break this down. Moses was on the mountaintop with God. Moses was not away at the grocery store or the shopping center. Moses was with God. And the people that God had brought out of Egypt, it was not a cow that brought the people out of Egypt. It was not a cow that stalled out the spirit of death out of Egypt. It was not a cow that rained down frogs out of Egypt to get the Egyptian Pharaoh to bow his knee. It was not a cow that parted the Red Sea. But in just a short period of time, when the people's needs felt neglected, they began to turn to idolatry, because idolatry gave them something they could touch and see and feel. I am concerned that many of us view the prophetic as something that we must touch, see, feel, and control. We are not interested in hearing about the throne of God. We are not interested in hearing about the cherubims and the seraphims. We are not interested in God telling us get back to our Bibles. We're not interested in God calling a prayer meeting. Rather, we would like somebody to call our name, call our address, call our telephone number, because we want something we can touch and feel and see. Moses was with God. Isn't it amazing that people can claim to be prophetic but not discern which leaders are with God? Like you were with the DL apostle and then you left and you go find another with the same spirit. You can't discern who's been with God. You can't discern who's been in prayer. Well, but they prophesied to me. Witches can prophesy. Diviners can prophesy. Prophecy is not the proof of a prophet. Intimacy is the proof of a prophet. Purity is the proof of a prophet. It was in the days of Elijah that Elijah was unlike any other prophet. Why? Because he would not bow to Baal. It was not the word of knowledge that proved his prophetic acumen. It was not his ability to heal the sick that proved his prophetic acumen. No, that was not. Elijah did not have a prophecy meeting on Mount Carmel. Elijah did not have a deliverance meeting. I need you to hear me. He did not have a deliverance meeting on Mount Carmel. Elijah did not have a healing. I love the healing ministry. He did not have a healing ministry meeting on Mount Carmel. No, Elijah told the prophets of Baal, you call upon your God and I'm going to call upon my God. And the God that answers by fire, he is God. You see, God didn't answer with a word of knowledge. God didn't answer with a prophetic decree. God didn't answer with a healing. God didn't answer with a miracle. God answered by fire, but he had to first cut up a sacrifice. I need you to know the prophetic ministry is sacrificial. I need you to know the prophetic ministry is bloody. I need you to know that prophetic ministry is about standing separated when everybody else is going in one direction. I need to ask a question online, in the building, in Atlanta, in Mississippi, in North Carolina, in London. Where are the prophets of God? I know that people are babbling and talking and predicting, but where are those that call upon fire and fire shows up? We've got a generation that is in need, of desperate need of a move of God. They don't need another address. They don't need another deliverance. They don't need another revelation. They need the fire of God that comes from consecration. Where are those prophets that are consecrated? Where are those prophets that are separated? Where are those prophets that have heard from God and refused to bend? Furthermore, you cannot deliver what you dabble. God had brought them out of Egypt, but Egypt was still in them. Where was idolatry headquartered? It was headquartered in Egypt. I need you to know, some of you are trying to do deliverance on people that are struggling in the same way you're struggling. You need to work on your own deliverance before you start. Listen, I don't know everything, but I'm smart enough to know there's some things you're not ready to tackle. Don't get delivered from alcoholism and then you go in the bar to witness. The devil is a liar. People do it. Oh, well, I don't know how I fell into sin. I was just in the bar. That's how you fell into sin. You got an alcoholic spirit. It's a bloodline curse. Your grandma was an alcoholic. Your Aunt Mabel was an alcoholic. Your cousin Nellie was an alcoholic. You were an alcoholic and you got delivered. And now you think God told you to go back to the bar. The devil is a liar. You go to the hospital and pray for the sick. Let God send somebody else to the bar. But see, sometimes you come out of Egypt, but Egypt is still in you. And the devil will lie to you and tell you that you've got enough faith and enough stamina to start to minister to people that are dealing with the same demons you're dealing with. You've got to have sense. They had been brought out of Egypt, but Egypt was still in them. Deliverance is deeper than just quitting a habit. Oh, I got delivered because I stopped whatever you stopped. That's not deliverance. Deliverance is the supernatural art of expulsion. The thing is divinely ripped violently out of you. That's why it's painful. There's a tearing. There's a ripping. Deliverance does not feel good. If you're going through deliverance and it's feeling good to you, you're not going through deliverance. Deliverance does not feel good. Well, but you just don't understand. Listen, we are fighting against a culture. We are fighting against a culture that says everything is okay. We are gripped in the American society with idolatry, because though we have crosses and though we'll protest certain things, the reality is we believe that we are smarter and more educated than God. And we've come to a place now where you can decide whatever you want to be. We've come to a place now where there's a fight in the faith to say what is biblically pure and not pure. I don't want to give you my opinion because my opinion didn't die on the cross for you. I want to give you what the Bible said. And the Bible said that God created both male and female. There was no confusion about it. Yet we're having debates about who can have a baby and who cannot have a baby. The devil is a liar. We are living in a perverse culture. And it's not out there, it's in here. 20 years ago, I would get calls from pastors that would say, people, I got leaders fornicating and prophets fornicating. Now, I said, well, at least they're not doing this over here. Why? Because the standard has slipped so low. It's slipped so low. Why? We've got Egypt in us. And we're trying to be prophetic, but we can't deal with the thing that's in us. They went under the spirit of the land God was trying to deliver them from. And they began to worship the thing that bound them. And the devil is trying to get us to worship the very thing that binds us. You see, Moses was on assignment. Moses was not a politician. Moses was a prophet. He was a sanctified, God-called, ordained voice in his generation. And he was up on the mountain. But the people got frustrated. And I've learned this about frustrated people. Frustrated people will do dumb things. Every terrible decision I've ever made in my life was made when I was tired or frustrated. One of the greatest spiritual warfare strategies you can ever do is don't send that text till you slept on it. Don't respond to that till you've had time to rest your mind, rest your body. But see, they were upset because when they could not touch the prophet, they wanted gods they could touch. I need you to know that idolatry and lust are connected. When people want a God that moves according to their timing and their command, they begin moving in the spirit of idolatry. And we are comfortable with a Jesus that will save us. The evangelical church is really good about getting people to the altar on Sunday morning, but we're not dealing with Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. We want a God that will give us a get out of hell free card. We don't want a God that tells us how to live. We don't want a God that tells us to love our neighbors. We don't want a God that tells us to bless them that curse us. We don't want that God. We want the God that blesses us and gives us raises and bonuses and promotions and favor. And that's where it stops for us. And the danger of that is we become idolatrous. We become lustful. The power of a prophet is in their purity. My concern with the prophetic as it stands right now is there's a lack of purity. We don't know when people lay hands on us what's being put into us. And we're afraid to deal with it. We're afraid to talk about it. I've gotten where I don't even want to go speak for people anymore. I'm contemplating taking the least amount of invitations I've ever taken next year because I don't know what I'm getting into. I'm going into green rooms that are war zones. I'm going to places where I feel like I need intercessory prayer after I get out of that atmosphere because of the contamination and the pollution there. And I know people go through stuff. Hear me, I'm a grace preacher. I know people go through stuff. This salvation, it's not by works or the law. It's by faith. God is so good that in his infinite wisdom, he loved us and died and provided a Savior for us that needed saving. I understand that. I've got that. I'm not against that. But what I'm saying is this, that when we begin to run rampant in idolatry and lust, we build what we want to build and do what we want to do. You know, when I was coming up in the ministry, you didn't just start a church because you wanted to have a place to preach. How do we have so many apostles now? You've been in ministry 6 months and you're apostle so-and-so. We don't know what you've apostled, where you came from, what you've done. Come on, somebody. We've got no pastors anymore. There are no evangelists. The world is going to hell, and we apostles are fighting over church members and people. Listen, it's ridiculous. The world needs Jesus, and our prophets are out doing crazy, goofy stuff. So we don't have a prophet that'll come and line us out. They'll call our name and then talk to us about the occult. Folk putting out flyers. I saw a conference flyer with horoscope symbols on it. I said, the devil is a liar. The devil's a liar, and nobody wants to talk about it. Well, you know, if you say that and people get upset with you, I think, you know what? I think we need an Elijah spirit in the church. Because how do you know if we don't say something? They begin to move away from God that delivered them. The power of a prophet is in their purity. I want to recalibrate your thinking of the prophetic. It's not your supernatural ability. It is your consecration to the Lord. That when God begins to say something, you will move tenaciously, aggressively, and almost violently towards what God said. And everything that gets in your way, you refuse to bend, you refuse to bow, you refuse to alter what the Lord said. You do what God said and only what God said. Moses was on the mountaintop, but the people wanted a God they could touch. Now, what was the assignment of Aaron? Aaron's assignment was to be the prophet with Moses. He was the subordinate prophet. But watch this. When the people began to get upset, they reached out to Aaron and said, Aaron, we want to build a God. And Aaron complied with the people's lust and rebellion. He moved from being God's prophet to the people's prophet. And he became gripped with the spirit of divination. I want to say to you on PPN night, one of my concerns is we've taken the prophetic from being a God thing to being a people thing. And now we're stacking up who can get the most people because they're calling names and addresses. Yet they're saying they're teaching wrong. Their doctrine is incorrect. They've got a spirit of error on their life, but we don't care. You know why we're so hungry for that stuff? Because we've got a spirit of idolatry on us. We would rather have gifts, and we would rather have words of knowledge, and we would rather have names called out than you to call a prayer meeting. Don't call a prayer meeting. We ain't coming, but call names out and speak about our grandmothers and speak about people that have gone on. We're going to come to the meeting all day, every day. Tell me where my money's at in the bank. We're going to come to the meeting, but you call me to consecration? You call me to prayer? I'm not coming. Aaron became the people's prophet. Prophets, I want to warn you tonight. Don't you become the people's prophet. You better be God's prophet. You are living in a generation and an age. We are in an age that within our lifetime, not in our children's lifetime, within our lifetime, if we don't see a massive move of God, we will be restricted in what we can say and do in the American church. Do you know that the rest of the world is mocking America? We are fighting over bathrooms and clothes in Target and people's rights to marry this and that and this and that. And China and Russia are planning 100-year plans to take down the Western world. And we are asleep in America fighting over social issues that have nothing to do with what is happening around the world. And people can't understand us. When you go to Europe, they say, oh, y'all are from that country where everybody shoots each other. And we think, oh, we're America, the greatest and the smartest. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. And there is no help. I don't care whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. I see no help anywhere but God. We better wake up. We may have to go to house churches. We may not even be able to gather in buildings of thousands of people in America and really preach the truth because they may come in and arrest you and shut you down. I'm serious. I'm telling you. They came into a home, I think it was in California, and took a child out of the home because the parents would not let them start to change their gender. This is the age we're living in. You don't think it's real? You don't think you're going to see it? There's a showdown happening, and we're fighting over church members. We don't have time to fight because we want to be on the intercessory prayer meeting. You don't have time to do your own thing, and you got 5 people that come to your meetings, and you could be a part of something that would really change your city, and you want to be great with 5 people instead of connecting where God assigned you. But because you've got undealt with soul wounds and child wounds, you are manifesting all kind of foolishness, and when anyone speaks to it, you get upset. And now everybody got church hurt. Can I be honest with you? I mean, I've had church hurt myself. But the truth is, the reason that we process the way we do, well, half of what we call church hurt is you got corrected. Somebody simply told you, they were so awful to me. I had a prophetic word, and they didn't let me take over the whole service and prophesy. I never tithed at the church. I'm not faithful, but I just should have been given the service. This is what we do. Then we start a Facebook page, TikTok, deconstructing the church, and spread the spirit of offense. Or even worse, we become a prophet and gather all the offended people in a city to our meeting, all the church haters, and talk against the church and prophesy against the church. That's what we do. And then people say, oh, look how God's promoting them. God hasn't promoted them. They have found a soul wound in somebody that is so powerful, they grab that soul wound and pull them into what they're doing. And we call them prophets. I'm telling you, this thing is serious. Kenneth E. Hagin was preaching. And his wife, Aretha, this is not a story I heard. I was in the room with them and have heard this many times. His wife began complaining. That's why you better watch who you marry. If you're called of God, the last person you need to marry is someone that's going to get in the way of what God called you to do. Oh, but she's cute. Cute will wear off. Cute will wear off. Stuff starts moving, changing, has to be pulled up. Cute will wear off. Better have ugly and sanctified than cute and devilish. Come on, somebody. I don't know how many young men I've counseled that are called of God, but they've married a contentious woman. I saw a pastor's wife picture today, but breast out. I said to my wife, I said, don't you ever put something like this. She said, I wouldn't even wear that. I said, I'm not that old. I'm not even 50 yet, and this is so crazy to me. You went on and got a sexy bra. Intentionally. Took a picture, should have been in your bedroom, and put it online. And you're a pastor's wife. The Lord rebuke you, ma'am. The Lord rebuke you. They wonder, why is the church dealing with lust? Because we're acting crazy. We're acting crazy. So Brother Hagin's wife said, Ken, I don't want you traveling. Jesus had come to him and said, I called you to travel. I don't want you traveling. I want you to be at home with the kids. Well, this is the thing about being called. What you want, you don't get to do when you're called. I never wanted to preach. Never asked God to make me a preacher. Try to run from preaching. Have told the Lord several times, even today. Not today, but in this period of my life. Lord, whenever you don't need me to preach, I'm okay with it. It's the truth. But God told me, this is your call. Then I said, can I just preach like those preachers that tell a joke and warm the crowd up? You know, because when you preach like non-charismatic, non-Pentecostal, you don't sweat. It's just easy. You just talk for 30 minutes. People laugh. Everybody likes you. Or most of the church people like you because you made them feel good, told a motivational story, and walk out, and you ain't even tired. But we scream and yell and run and lay hands on folk and cast demons out and worn out. And some of our people are the most contentious people. So Brother Hagin's wife said, I don't want you to travel. So he stopped traveling and took a church. He didn't go sleep with somebody. He didn't go out crazy. He took a church, pastoring. But God didn't call him to pastor. He was healed at 17 of heart problems. Interesting. Lester Summerall, Oral Roberts, and Kenneth E. Hagin were all healed of physical ailments when God called them to the ministry. And God used one in deliverance and the other two in healing. Interesting how God does that. So he's preaching one day and starts having a heart attack and falls over dying. Aretha's in her seat. And she said, oh God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lord. He's yours. He's yours. I won't nag him anymore, Lord. He can travel. Instantly the power of God came on him and healed him. And Jesus told him, I never told you to pastor that church, son. This is how real this thing is. This is a narrow road. You're called to be a prophet, and you think you can go wherever you want. Preaching for people that you shouldn't preach for. Not consecrating yourself in prayer. Not taking time with God. Not being faithful in the things God's told you to be faithful in. This is dangerous. Now people just do whatever they want to do. And I'm concerned. I believe God wants to deal with prophetic idolatry. Aaron became the people's prophet. Listen, they brought their gold. They brought their earrings. Do you know people will pay for divination? People will pay for divination. Oh, you giving words out over there? I'll give you a $5,000 offering. They go to their church, never drop $100. Want hospital visitation, help when they can't pay their light bills. They go to the divination meeting. God said 5 people in here give $5,000. They're going to get a husband. Oh, shut up, put the offering on a credit card. Divination will take your money. Divination will cost you. But you can't buy the anointing. You can't buy favor. You can't buy a miracle. You can't buy the things of God. The things of God are not for sale. The devil's mean-spirited. He'll take your money. He'll take your energy. He'll take your mind. But the real God, Yahweh, is not for sale. People will pay for divination because it speaks to familiar spirits. It speaks to soulish desires. It speaks to fleshly ambitions. Some of those profound prophetic words are rebukes. Would to God you had somebody in your life that would rebuke you. Would to God you had somebody in your life that would love you enough to say, look, I don't believe this is the right road for you. I don't believe this is the right pathway for you. Over and over in my journey with Dr. Hayes before he died, he rebuked me not one time but hundreds of times. He would tell me, don't do this. I didn't have to try to pray to figure out what he was saying. Ryan, don't do this. This is not of God. Don't go down that road. Would to God you would be so pliable in the hands of the Lord as a prophetic person that you would let God send people into your life that will speak the truth to you and love you so much and understand that your growth demands a breaking sometimes. Now, when all this is going on, God begins to speak to Moses. I need you to know that in spite of the blanket of idolatry in our generation, there are still prophets in the land that God is speaking to. In every nation online, there are still prophets in your nation. If you agree, I want you to put 2 fire emojis in the comments. In America, there are still prophets in this nation. There are still people of God that are Elijahs and have fire and have purity and have consecration. And I believe this thing God wants to do is about us coming back to the fundamentals of who God really is. Moses came down from the mountain after interceding. He had to intercede for the people. Why? Because God was going to destroy the people. But he came down from the mountain. And the Bible said in verse 31 of that chapter, Moses returned to the Lord and said, oh, this people have sinned a great sin and made them gods of God. Yet now if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee out of the book thou hast written. And the Lord said unto Moses, whoever has sinned against me, him will I blot out of the book. He began to intercede for them. He began to pray for them. He began to speak life unto them. And I believe God is raising up prophets in this hour that will speak light into darkness, life over death, prophets of mercy, prophets of intercession. I believe God is raising up people in this hour that will begin to really seek the face of the Lord. But before Moses did that, in verse 15 of that same chapter, Moses turned and went down the mount. And the 2 tables of testimony were in his hand, and the tables were written on both sides, on one side the other. And the tables were the work of God, and the writing was the work. And when Joshua heard the noise of the people, they shouted. He said unto Moses, there's a noise of war in the camp. He said, it's not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the voice of them that sing do I hear. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh, he saw the calf, and they were dancing. Now, I need you to hear this. This is verse 19. And Moses' anger waxed hot. Moses did not come down the mountain and say, oh, hi, y'all. You know, you might want to pray about them cows you're worshiping. He was angry. Watch this. The Bible said he was angry. And he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount, and took the calf which they had made and burnt it in the fire, and ground it to the powder, and strawed it upon the water, and made the children of Israel drink of it. Now think about this. He made them drink the idolatry. He made them drink the sin. What was Moses's, how did he react and respond to idolatry? How did he react and respond to the rejection of Yahweh? He began to break up their idols. And as I was reading these verses, I heard the Spirit of God say that God is raising up a prophetic generation that does not need popularity or man's perception. He's raising up a prophetic generation that will do the difficult things, that will go on the tough assignments, that will do the hard things. He's raising up a generation to hate what he hates and love what he loves. And I want to ask you this question. Where are the prophets that preach repentance? Where are the prophets who are grieved by what grieves God? Where are those ones that have a grieving and a burden in their spirit? Where are the prophets who are willing to smash the idols of culture and don't care if people think they're crazy or foolish or rejected? They don't care if people call them religious, because they've got a burden from the Lord and they don't care what people think. Where are those prophets? I believe tonight God is calling us to crush some cows. I want to talk to you about 7 cows in the church I think we need to crush. Number 1 is the idol of ministry. Everybody's called, but nobody's consecrated. I can't scroll through Instagram and see a picture of somebody just having a good time now. Is Prophet so-and-so got 2 followers on their page, but they're just going to tell, God called me, I had 5 dreams, 3 visions. But you never sat and been faithful somewhere. You've never served somewhere. You know, when I was coming up in ministry, we used to look at that stuff. What did your former leader say about you? What was your track record? When Paul found Timothy was a disciple that was well spoken of. We've made an idol of ministry. Some of us need to take our calling and smash at the altar tonight. We're more concerned about our calling than people. Somebody walks up and says, hey, Ryan, don't call me Ryan. No, I'm not. That's not on my birth certificate. I'm not going to stand before God as Apostle Ryan Lestrange. That's my function in the church. I'm going to stand before God as a son, Ryan. I'm going to stand before God. So if I can't be real in the earth and really love people and not be so bound up by my title and my vocation and what I do in the church, then guess what? I'm in deception. And I believe tonight we need to crush the calf of ministry. The second one in the church we need to deal with is we need to deal with the issue of money, because we've got too many people that are preaching and doing things for God because they need to pay their light bill. They're having conferences God never told them to have because they're enriching themselves with conference money. They're having crusades God never told them to have because they want to raise the offering. Where are the people who will preach for nothing? When I started preaching, I preached on the street corners, in the nursing home, in the jail. I'm not just making this up. That's where I preach. And I said, God, you can leave me there forever. Now we can't preach unless we get this and this and this. The third calf we need to crush is the calf of gifts. We're all so gifted, we're not humble. When I meet you, you got to tell me 15 things the Lord called you to do. All that speaks to me is that you don't know who you really are. When I meet people, I'm prophetess so-and-so, doctor so-and-so, apostle so-and-so. I've been to 15 nations preaching. I've written 3 books. I've got 4 degrees. You just tell me all your brokenness. Because we can get to that stuff later. Some of us need to bring our gifts to the altar, and we need to remember when we first got saved and didn't know if we even had a gift, when Jesus rescued us out of sin and out of bondage, and we didn't even know if we were called or gifted, but we just loved Jesus because he sought us when we were bound and broken. And some of us need to come back to that rugged cross, that hill called Calvary, and remember when the man with the eyes of fire called on name. We need to come back to that place, and we need to bring the gift of preaching and the gift of singing and the gift of writing and the gift of entrepreneurship and crush it at the altar. Because God didn't call your gift, God called you. Your gift don't belong to you. If you think your gift belongs to you, you hadn't even discovered your gift. We had someone in our house and they asked my wife, how do y'all navigate ministry and marriage? She said, I understood his calling. And I have great reverence for his calling. When she finished speaking, I said, I have reverence for my calling because I didn't want it. It's not mine. When I tell you all those stories of things I've seen God do, I'm still shocked he did them through me. Do I pray? Yes. Do I fast? Yes. Do I seek God? Yes. But I'm just as broken as you are in many ways. I'm just as human as you are in many ways. And I'm still surprised God would use me. And I understand the call on my life doesn't belong to me. Even when I make plans, I'm making plans, things I want to do next year and the year after and the year after that. But I'm saying this is what Ryan wants to do, but it's up to God. It's up to God. We need to bring our gifts. The other calf we need to crush is the calf of church hurt. Some of us are hiding behind an experience to escape serving. Well, but that pastor I served left me. That's the problem. You were serving the pastor. The people derail when the leader left. If you're really serving God, you don't derail when the leader leaves. Let me just interject a thought, and I'm going to keep it moving. we maybe have to reconsider our American concept of apostleship, because the biblical one, apostles didn't stay in one place forever. So we got apostles that have been in place for 15 years. They got one person that can preach in the church besides them. That's not the paradigm. That's not the pattern. Why? Because an apostle, a legitimate apostle, Jesus has to come to them and call them. That's how it happened to me. He came in my bathroom, said two things to me. Everybody has a call. Everybody has a commission. I said, what is my call? He said, apostolic. I didn't know what it was. What's my commission? He said, to take my power to nations of the earth. So two things he told me. And then I started studying and praying. The apostle is the apostle of Jesus Christ. Their job is not to make you a follower of them. The job of the ATL Hub is to equip you, and Global Hub Online to equip you to do what God's called you to do, where God's called you to do it. Hopefully in portion here, but a whole lot out there. That's the job. And a real apostolic church, if God said, Ryan, I want you to go to Kenya for 6 months, a real apostolic church, I should be able to go to Kenya in 6 months, and Owen and Tay and the rest of the team, I come back, and the church is growing, and people are happy, like, well, we missed you and we love you, but we've been having a good time because all this stuff's been happening. People getting saved, and prophecies have been happening. Now, I'll be honest, if you said that way, I would be mad. I would be like, y'all, come on. But in theory, it should work that way. I want y'all to be like, cry, oh, God, we barely made it while you were gone. It was awful. It was so terrible. I said, I know, guys, but I'm back. They did their best while I was gone. Praise the Lord for them. Let's keep them in prayer. They're trying. Some of us need to bring the calf of independence to the altar. You know, the principality over America is independence or rebellion. This nation was founded in a rebellion. England sent a group over, and they said, we don't want to pay taxes. We're still having that argument right now in 2023. We don't want to pay taxes. We know y'all need help and need a house, but we don't want to pay taxes. Come on, somebody. That was what caused a rebellion. So we don't want to be told what to do. You can't tell an American. You start traveling to other nations, they're not nice about it. I was going to Nigeria. They said, you don't have your yellow fever shot, you ain't coming in. I'm an American. I didn't have my yellow fever shot. I didn't know. I thought it was optional. The church had sent an agent of the government to pick me up. And the agent of the government waived it and got me through. Otherwise, I couldn't have got through. But they don't play in other nations. You don't get, I'm preaching on Salvador. You go, I want to go eat KFC. There's guards with machine guns out there. They don't play. They'll shoot you and ask questions later. It ain't America. Some of us need to bring our independence, because we want to do what we want to do instead of what God's calling us to do. And we need to crush it at the altar. Another calf we need to crush is the calf of fame. We want to be God's superstar. Don't try to serve God and think because you serve God, you're going to be his next superstar. No, many of you, God's going to take you down a low road. This is going to be an ouch one. Seventh one. We need to crush. We need to crush politics and political allegiance that divides us from a kingdom perspective. Because some of us refuse to see certain injustices because of our political ideology. And we will disconnect from people. I had a whole group of preachers I preached with every year. Helped them, promoted them when no one knew them. And they all blocked me on social media because they thought I saw something different than they did politically. Never even asked me. I actually don't think what they think that I think, but they didn't even ask me. But that spirit gets in people, and we start hating one another because we have been made to think that the answer to every problem is in a political party. And so we have an allegiance, and we tie our faith into it. Well, you can't be a Christian if... And we tie our faith into that. And we are blinded. I remember preaching in Arizona. And I stopped at the side of the road. And I was shopping at a craft stand. And all of a sudden I began to weep uncontrollably. Like horrifically. I couldn't control it. I had to walk off to the side. And my wife said, what is happening? I said, I don't know what is happening to me. Just give me a minute. And I began to see the cry of the Native Americans in this nation. And the Spirit of the Lord began to speak to me, and the Spirit of the Lord said, in my word, I always honor what was first. And he said, I want you to start to honor the people whose land were taken. I want you to begin to be an agent of healing and reconciliation. I understand I can't undo that. It was already done. But what I can do is speak into it prophetically and be an agent and an instrument of compassion. And so God had me to begin to become an intercessor for them. And I began to intercede for them. The next thing I knew, I was preaching on the Navajo reservation and the Crow reservation. In fact, I have a group of Navajos that want me to come and preach this year. And God began to give me such great compassion. But I'm going to tell you some of the things that God told me during that time. Many of my friends got angry with me about things God told me. But I told them, I don't care. I don't have an R or a D next to my salvation. I have Jesus and his blood over me. And I am a kingdom citizen. So whatever God tells me, if God tells me to go prophesy to a Democrat, I'm going to prophesy to them. If God tells me to go prophesy to a Republican, I'm going to prophesy to them. If God can use a donkey, God can use these people in whatever way he wants to use them. But my allegiance must be to the kingdom. Many of us have lost relationships over this. We hate one another because of this. And we ignore certain societal issues. Now, 5 calves we need to crush in the prophetic, and we're going to begin to pray. One is notoriety. If you're prophetic, you've got to get past this spirit of ambition. You want notoriety, because here's the problem. You stop ministering to people and you started ministering to the algorithm. The second calf is we need to crush the calf in the prophetic movement of signs. That we always have to have a sign about everything. Romans said, as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they're the sons of God. God will give you signs, but signs point you to a destination. The sign is not to be worshiped. One of the reasons we're getting in trouble right now in the prophetic is because we are being too sensory driven. We don't know how to just believe for something and stand on it. We have to have 15 dreams and 3 angels come to us about it. And we have instability, and really it's soul wounds and areas that need deliverance in our life, and we're blaming it on Jesus. We're telling about, oh, God told me, the Lord told me, he told me to come here, and God told me Apostle Ryan was my apostle, and God told me I was going to join the worship team, and Derek was going to be the pastor over me, and then we go to the audition, and we're off key, and they don't choose us. Oh, it's okay because I had a dream last night, and the Lord told me in the dream I'm to go to a different church. You know, the Lord, either the Lord didn't tell you the first thing, or the Lord didn't tell you the second thing. But see, we make all these signs our guideposts, and we don't know how to be led by the Spirit of God. We need some folk that know how to hold on. Sometimes when you're following God, you just got to hold on. Things are shaky, and you don't know how it's going to work out, and you don't know where you're going to end up, but you just remember what God said to you, and you're just holding on. There's been times with God, I'm just holding on. I can't see the end, the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm just holding on. In the middle of the storm, I'm still holding on. I'm not having a dream. I'm not having a vision. I'm just holding on to God. God, I just know in my knower you call me to be here. And even though all hell is waging war around me, I'm still holding on. See, we need to know how to hold on. We need to crush the calf of manifestations. They were driven by manifestations. We measure how much of God is in a building by what we feel. You know how immature that is? Oh, I fell out 3 times. God was really in that building. God might have been in that building when you didn't feel nothing because your soul was getting dealt with. Because the thing is, you don't learn how to stand by falling out. These moments right here is how you learn how to stand. We know how to fall out. We need to crush, I'm almost done. We need to crush the calf of prophetic words. That we made the totality of the prophetic words. I've had people leave my network because I didn't prophesy to them enough. Literally. I don't preach here as a guest speaker. So if you travel with me, you'll see some things on the road that would be different than here. Because on the road, I'm preaching as a guest speaker. I'm not trying to equip people. I'm not trying to grow them in the same measure. I'm trying to impact them where they're at with the amount of time that I have. But here, I'm preaching as your apostle. So I'm trying to elevate your thinking. I heard a preacher that we don't need to talk about money in the church. I totally disagree with that. Jesus talked about money over and over again in the gospel. Some people are so impoverished and struggling, you can't even hear the word of God because you're trying to figure out how to pay your light bill. Every day, people are writing to us, I'm homeless, I need help. If ever the church needed to educate people on money, it's now in 2023 when the cost of living has gone throughout the roof, and we have a kingdom inside of us that by its own nature brings multiplication, and we need to teach people. I don't want you just to be filled with the Holy Ghost and that's it. I want you to find what God put you on earth to do and prosper in it and be a bloodline breaker for your family. But some of us just want manifestations and prophetic words. And we got so many prophetic words. Right after I started ATL Hub, someone gave me a word. I see Los Angeles over you. I said, I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm just going to pray. Every week somebody gives me a word. Had some lady on Instagram, I thought I knew who she was. I thought I recognized her picture. She sent me 4 voice messages and then her phone number. So I'm listening. She's prophesying. And I'm like, who is it? And then I realized I don't even know this lady. I thought I recognized her picture. I'm like, I don't even know her. And then if you want to call me, no, I don't want to call you. Not now, not tomorrow, not the next day. I am not calling you. If I live my life based on prophetic words, I'd be here one day and over there one day and over here one day and over there one day. You need the word of the Lord. When God speaks to you, and let me tell you, some of the deepest prophetic words I've ever had were cutting words that cut me to the core, that I was angry after I got that word. But it was the word I needed in that season of my life because the devil was trying to take me out. We're looking for words all the time. Oh, I'm going to this conference to get a word. Oh, I'm going over there to get a word. Oh, I'm going over here to get. And that's the problem. You don't know who you are because you got a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Here was my rule of thumb. Whoever my leader was, that was the most prominent voice in my life. Every other voice had to submit to that voice. So if I got a word over here, you need to go to Jamaica, and my leader was, no, you need to be right here. I'm putting that on the shelf. You know how to put a prophetic word on the shelf? Put it on the shelf, and if it's of God, it'll come back up. The timing thing will align for you, but you put it on the shelf. Some of us have got journals full of prophetic words. Can I tell you, prophetic words without action are just empty promises. You've got to let God prepare your spirit for the thing God wants you to do. You can get word after word after word. And in fact, sometimes prophetic words will birth frustration because it brings you out of alignment with timing. You begin to think, well, it's time for me to do this thing. No. God lives out ahead of time. So God will give you glimpses of your future. There are things I saw at 17 years of age I've not yet stepped into. They're inside of me. I don't know if it's going to happen in next year or the year after or 10 years from now. I know it's going to happen because God showed me, but I'm not anxious about the timing. We need to crush that calf. And lastly, in the prophetic ministry, we need to crush the golden calf of offices and gifts. Oh, what am I? A child of God. The church would have a lot less drama if we all just became children of God. If we just became satisfied with that. I don't have to have a commissioning that puts me in a certain place or category or office. I'm a child of God. If I'm on the worship team, I'm a child of God. If I'm an usher, I'm a child of God. If I join the evangelism team, I'm a child of God. If I join the intercession team, I'm a child of God. And then let God work it out. But we've made these offices and these gifts so much that it's what we live for. And we get so disappointed if somebody doesn't see it. The Bible did not say your gift will cause you to announce it to everybody. Your gift will make room for you. The evidence of a gift is room. Let me set some of you free. Here's how you look in the realm of the Spirit. I'm prophet so-and-so. I'm prophet so-and-so. You're kicking them doors. I'm prophet so-and-so. You are working in the arm of the flesh. Idolatry is fleshly and not spiritual. You are operating in idolatry because you idolize the gift or office you think you have so much, but it's not being evidenced in your life. Because when it's being evidenced, you don't announce it, it announces you. People recognize what's on you sometimes before you even know it's on you. And it makes room for you. But see, you got to trust the grace of God. Well, I'm getting anxious. I just don't know. Listen, there are people that did not even start in ministry till they were 40 and 50 years old. God can do in 5 years or 10 years more than you could do in 50 years of striving. But you got to come out from idolatry and come into the grace of God. And the Lord is saying tonight, will you smash this calf of giftedness? Will you smash this calf of calling? Will you smash this calf of prophetic words? Will you smash this calf of an office? And when you come back to the purity, will you come back to the heart of worship? Will you come back to just loving me and being an agent of intimacy and consecration? Where are the Elijahs in the room? Where are those that say, I just want God? I just want God. See, I believe there's a revival coming in the land of people that just want God. We're tired of all the hype and the trauma and the fluff, and we don't care if there's 5 people or 5,000 people. We just want God. We just want to be where God is. We just want to be where God's moving. We don't care if we know the songs y'all are singing. We don't care about any of it. We just want God. We need Him. We understand that in the day and the time and the era that we're living in, if we don't have God, we can't make it. I believe there's a move of God upon us now that is for the God hungry, the God seekers, and God is looking for prophets that'll wake up hungry in people, not wake up their ambition, not wake up their soul wounds, not wake up their childhood wounds, but wake up hunger in them. I believe some of you are being marked this day and mantled this day with prophetic purity, and God is saying, will you wake up hunger in people? That's why I've got you where I've got you. I've got you in a place of surrender, saith the Lord. What you thought would work did not work. What you thought would happen did not happen. But I've got you in a place of consecration and surrender. Even this night, saith the Lord, I began this gathering with hunger, and the hungry began to cry out, and the hungry began to worship me, and the hungry began to prophesy. And now, said the Spirit of God, I'm breaking wounds, I'm breaking bondages, I'm breaking barriers, I'm breaking chains. If you'll lift up your voices and worship me, saith the Lord, my glory will come in your midst, my glory will come in your presence, my glory will come in this gathering. Oh, Raman Sekaya, Lemansaya, Rukahasaya, Lembrand, Shanamanse, Nandalabasaya, Yandalabasaya. I need someone that will just begin to lift their voice. Shandalamahasa, Shandalabahaya. Come on, you online, lift your voice. Come on, forget about your neighbor. Forget about the one on your left. Forget about the one on your right. And lift your voice like a trumpet now. Shanda. Come on, those that just want God, those that just want God, those that just want God, lift your voice, lift your voice, lift your voice.